Presented by the Making Star Wars Podcasting Network. This is the Cantina Cast, your watering hole for thought-provoking Star Wars discussion, character dissections, quote and scene analysis, honest opinions on the Star Wars news that interests you, and whatever else these guys come up with. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joao.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 205, the Poe Dameron Show. He's our main topic for tonight, but we got a lot of news to get to before we get to Mr. Poe Dameron, and a little bit of news that might tie into what we're about to talk about later tonight. But Joao, say hello to the fine folks.
Hello there.
All right. Well, first up, we have Joao is the only reason I'm going to mention this is Admiral Amberlyn Holdo is because, well, there was a new photo of her, and you know we haven't seen much of her. The only thing and I've read the Leia novel or book. You haven't, obviously. I figured you wouldn't. And it's pretty interesting. Her character is the best word to describe her is I want to say aloof, but aloof that's kind of like smart. I don't know. And it's just interesting. We get this picture of her, and of course we got the Resistance BB droid on the back there and stuff like that. But I just want to ask you right off the top of the show, we won't spend a lot of time on this. One, I like her look. I think she's awesome. Her character in the Leia novel was interesting, but what do you hope to see from her at all? Do you have any expectations? No, yes, maybe?
Well, we keep talking about, last week, and I don't know if everybody, because we're doing something a little bit live tonight, so not everybody's listened to 204 yet. But in 204, we talked about rivalries in our Poe Dameron main topic. We're going to talk a little bit more about rivalries. And I wonder, is there something with a rivalry here with Holdo and Leia a little bit, because I've heard rumors. I don't know if it's a rivalry per se, like it's maybe not on the rivalry of Finn and Phasma, which we talked about last week, or what we're going to talk about later in the show, but maybe a different kind of a rivalry. Am I off base saying that?
Well, I didn't get that impression from reading the book. I got it where Leia didn't take her seriously, but she may appear to be aloof, but she's really kind of smart. And one that Leia would come in handy for Leia. So I can see there being a friendship more than a rivalry. But again, this was when they were 16 years old. Now, 35, 40 years later, I mean, things change and people change. So I'm curious how that'll be. I hope we get a lot of depth with her character. I'll say that. I don't want it to be like, oh, okay, great. And then we move on to like another thing. I mean, that was one of the things with Poe is he was great, but he didn't have much depth other than when he was with Finn, and that was great. I still want a Finn and Poe movie, to be honest. That would be a great standalone. But I mean, like Poe didn't. He was like, I guess, one-dimensional in the first, The Force Awakens. You know what I mean? And now, hopefully we'll get more than that. I hope she's not kind of. I guess I don't want her to look like Phasma. I guess you could say we don't want any of that. But I guess I'll leave it at.
Well,
yeah,
I guess I just wonder if because just from some of the rumors I've heard about how this character is going to interact with the Resistance and maybe who she gets along with and maybe who she doesn't get along with. I guess maybe that's where I was taking that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, so I don't recall seeing Laura Dern in a lot of movies that I recall, obviously except Jurassic Park, but I'm sure she's, had a great working career. I just can't recall her as an actor, I guess. So, I mean, we'll see how things go. I mean, I'm sure she's going to be, great in this. And I do like her look. It's kind of, I guess, a little bit, I mean, because we're looking at a picture here in our notes, and it's a little bit, in a way, I guess it's simplistic, especially maybe for Star Wars. But I mean, she does have the purple hair, which makes her stand out. But then you have another BB droid in the background. So I don't know. It's just it's interesting. What is her influence on the Resistance going to be? And it's just another thing that's going to kind of be thrown into the melting pot here, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it'll be because her character's eccentric, I guess you could say, the best I could say from what I gathered in the book. Going forward, I'm interested to see how that plays out in a rebellion or the resistance. You know what I mean? Like now it's fighting, and she seemed willing to fight. I got to give her character that much credit. I think she was willing to fight. For someone you would think that's like a hippy dippy, I guess. I don't know. I can't even think of the word, but that's the only thing. That's how old I am. I'm using hippy dippy, which is a reference in the old days there. But in any case, let's get into JJ and his talk about episode 9, which kind of surprised me a little bit, Joe. I don't know. What did you take from his comments? I mean, I guess what I'll say this is we have to take them places that they haven't gone yet, and that's sort of our responsibility. Now, I'm laughing at this. I'm like, all right, well, he had that one shot with the Force Awakens, and he just I don't want to use the word played safe, but you know, he did what he had to do with the with this here. It's like Ryan, I would assume, is the one that took it to places that they haven't been before. So I don't know. What do you think? What his comments were, which were the other day on the BBC. I don't mean to, but take it away, Joe.
Yeah, I read over this, and it kind of just makes me feel like that JJ has read all of the criticism of The Force Awakens, and I'm not here to criticize The Force Awakens. I mean,
you like
one of the ones who, well, I mean, I more than like it. But my point is that there is criticism out there. I'm aware of it, so I'm sure JJ is aware of it. And this kind of flies right in the face of that criticism and saying I'm going to take it to new place. Because if you look at JJ's approach, at least his marketing approach and the way he talks about things, when he came into episode 7 and he was doing that movie, what did he do? He was talking a lot about how they're going to use practical effects and all of this, and obviously saying this isn't the prequels. That's what he was saying. And so now he's trying to say, well, this isn't going to be like, the homage and stuff that I was doing with 7, where I had to kind of reintroduce the storylines and kind of make that Star Wars, the nostalgia feels and all that kind of stuff, I think is what he's saying here. So he's kind of, at this point now, he's marketing against his own movie
a little bit. Yeah.
Like the first time he was saying this isn't the prequel, so come and watch. And now he's saying, well, now I'm back, but you can really expect something different this time. I'm not going to do the same thing I did last time. So any gripes you had last time, I promise I'm going to fix it. That's kind of what I get out of this. That's where I'm going with it. Yeah.
Well, that's what he says. We can't just revel in that, meaning in the past and what he did. We have to go elsewhere. But the reason I'm laughing, and I think this is strange, is because, all right, well, isn't that what Ryan was coming to do? And like, as we've said, and this isn't really a fair assessment, right? Like, the third movie is always wrapping things up, and that's really not fair to say. Maybe with Return of the Jedi, that was the case, wrapping things up and making it a nice, nice at the end. With Revenge of the Sith, there was going to be a lot of bloodshed and everything else, and hearts were going to break and everything else. With this here, I know I'd said back when Trevor was at the helm and that, and I said, well, he's just got to basically wrap things up. I mean, what else? After the second movie, that's when all the bad stuff happens. And in the last act there, I guess the third movie, is when they kind of stitch it all together and kind of go where they need to go with it. And there isn't really that big of surprises. I don't think so. I mean, we didn't have that Revenge of the Sith. I mean, we kind of all knew how that was going to play out. Return of the Jedi, you had that one big moment where he tells Leia, I'm your brother and Vader's your father. But I mean, I guess maybe at the end of the day there, it was like, could Luke turn dark, at that point? I don't know. Any more thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just, I feel like because we have seen 2 different kind of endings to trilogies so far. I mean, now that you bring that up, because we have like a dark ending and then we have the light ending with the original trilogy. So how do you make this different?
Yeah,
because as much as the movies and as much as they all line up, and our buddy Mike Climo points out, and he's got all of these parallels and these symbolisms and everything else that you can just match up, kind of moment for moment sometimes, whether it's cinematography, whether it's a line in the movie, whether it's whatever it is. There's so many things in Star Wars where it's just amazing how those things line up. But at the end of the day, the two trilogies are kind of very different on a different spectrum. So how do you make this third trilogy different from the other two?
Well, that's
do you make it so it's a continuation into a fourth trilogy where it's not so, but I think that, but the prequels did that too, because you knew there was already the original trilogy. So it led into that. So I don't know that would be any different. So this is kind of these comments, if they come true, it's sort of like mind-boggling in the same way of how we are with Ryan with The Last Jedi. Okay, how is this going to be different? How is it really going to be? How are you going to change the game? How are you going to change the game here? And I mean, I guess it takes people a lot smarter than we are to do it, but
which I think they are.
I hope they are a lot smarter than I am, because if you're not smarter than me and you're making these movies, then we've all got problems.
True. Well, I guess even there was something posted on Reddit where a fan spoke with JJ and kind of reaffirmed all these things. And now this is Reddit, so I don't know. I mean, the Star Wars Reddit, I guess, is pretty reputable, right, Joe? I don't go there often, but I guess it's okay. It's not like the cesspool, I think, of the internet and Reddit and all that. Well, they said they were going to be brave and they were going to go. There'll be big surprises and stuff like that. I'm paraphrasing what the comment was, and he goes on to say, "I get the impression that JJ felt he had to refresh previous Star Wars moments for the modern audience," which we've said, and which is kind of true. I guess that's not a surprise there. I mean, I know people said, I even thought he kind of played it safe, but what were you going to do? I said he did the best he could for doing what he had to do. But apparently this is the other big thing. Apparently they've had no interference from Kathleen or Pablo or the Lucasfilm Story Group, which we've kind of thought about for a while. That's no surprise there. 9 is also a film which unites all three trilogies, and we were just talking about that. But again, how are you going to go on from this trilogy to another one if that's the case? I mean, do you go with the whole gray Jedi, Rey and Kylo starting a new Jedi Order in a way, and Luke kind of going a different way? There's that too. I mean, so he's going the way of 6 feet under eventually. Don't say that about my boy Luke. Come on, don't get me. I can't handle that if that happens. But yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I can't figure out where they would go with this. You know what I mean? Like, where could you go possibly? I mean, I know you got to have it like where it's a closed chapter in that trilogy, and then we got to leave it a little open-ended to carry on a bit. But of course, they didn't do that in Return of the Jedi because, there wasn't any plans for 7 really anytime soon. So it was kind of like, all right, well, that's the end of it. So I don't know. Any more thoughts on any of this? And
yeah. Well, I mean, in George's, there's so many different contradictions in what George's original vision was. Some people said there were, there's talk of there was 12 episodes in George's original idea of all of this. So, I don't know. I don't think that Disney necessarily cares about what George Lucas was planning in the 70s. I think that if they feel like that they can make money and they've got the content and they can keep it going, I think they would, do way more than 12 episodes. But at the same time, you've got comments by like John Boyega, who says that episode 9 will be the war that ends all wars. And then there are theories out there, much like your own, that say that Rey will destroy, not only the Skywalker line, but, kind of, the balance in the Force. I don't know. The balance in the Force, it'll be wiping them all out. I tend to think that the balance in the Force is not the balancing of the Force. It's the balancing of oneself. And then that will be what the new Jedi way is. They'll go back to the old way. I think and that's hard to say because I don't know that was the old way, but that's kind of my own headcanon.
Yeah.
But hopefully it will maybe kind of start lending itself to that, I hope. But yeah, as far as pressing forward, we haven't even seen episode 8 yet. So asking me to, so to sit here and ask, what are they going to do to make episode 9? Let's see where they go with 8 and how things are going to go on. I don't know. I don't see this happening, but if Rey was turn to the dark side and become Snoke's apprentice or something. I don't know. Maybe she becomes the bad guy through, like, I mean, she could be the bad guy for several movies, I guess. I mean, you could just keep that going, and maybe the bad guys win in 9. Maybe the good guys don't win. Maybe there's maybe it's a bookend to the trilogy, but maybe it's not the one we're thinking. Maybe it's a repeating theme where
I was just going to say
bad guys, because Star Wars is kind of set in 3s and in a lot of different ways than you think about, but in the most simplistic way, it's built in 3s because it's a trilogy. And then you've got bad guys win, good guys win. And now what's happening this time?
Well, that's
if it's a repeating order and 12 episodes is what George Lucas's limit was, it would be bad guys, good guys, bad guys, good guys.
Which
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I really don't think Rey is going to the dark side. I as I've said before, I don't think Disney has the guts to do that. But it would be very interesting if it happened.
Well, what about this other comment? And again, this is from Reddit, and this gentleman talking to JJ and Chris, the fellow guy who's writing the movie with him, the script. And Chris said, he mentioned to him, I grew up with the prequel trilogy, and that was his introduction into Star Wars, is the prequel trilogy, which was a lot of people. And Chris said about 9 unites all of it. So I'm curious, how are you gonna pull that off? I mean, obviously Vader is still looming in the background, right? And of course you got Luke and Leia, or mostly Luke at this point, due to circumstances. How just throwing it out there hypothetically.
Well, I think that goes back. I think it goes back to the prophecy, because maybe I mean maybe that's where they're going with it. I don't know. I mean, that's the first thing that jumps into my mind. It's something to do with that, and it's the interpreting of the prophecy. And I know George is saying, and I know he's been quoted as saying, well, Anakin was the chosen one and he did the prophecy, but and I know people want to quote George on that and they want to quote him, but George has more than one time changed his tune.
He gave himself an out.
Several things when it's come to Star Wars. Well, he did give himself an out, but he also used to, in the original trilogy, it was Luke's story. But then when he made the next 3 movies, then the whole saga was the Anakin Skywalker saga. Now
it's the
Skywalker saga. It changes, it evolves, and it molds. So you can't. It's never. It's not like static. It's always changing. So originally it was Luke as the hero's journey. Luke is the hero. And then it became Anakin Skywalker's. Now it's the Skywalker saga. It's always evolving. It's always changing. So who knows what it will be by 12. It might not be referred to as the Skywalker saga by 12.
Well, that's true. But again, I was just going to say, towards the end there, 2005, and after that, I want to say when he was involved with the Clone Wars stuff, he started saying the Skywalker saga. That's where it started kind of being a thing. Like before, he would say in 2005, and it's Anakin's story, and he would say Anakin's a pathetic character, blah blah blah, that whole thing, and then he'd say Luke, and then he evolved it into the Skywalker saga, and now again it's another evolution of that, and based probably on some ideas that George had kicking around anyway. And like I said, as far as the prophecy, and I'm going to tie it in with a quote from Ryan here, where Ryan says J.J. Abrams is doing a 3rd movie. I'm not involved with it. They'll be writing their own story and continuing on what we did, which is basically saying it's their thing. They just have to play off of our thing, like I did with his, and go from there. So my point being is, I said in Revenge of the Sith, when they get to that, when Yoda's talking to Mace and Obi-Wan, he says misread the prophecy may have been. I think even then George was thinking different things and stuff. And then we get to the Mortis arc, which was like his final say on what the Force was and balance and all that other stuff. And he still stayed true to what his vision was, which was the fact that Anakin is the chosen one and stuff. But there are wrinkles in that whole thing, which we're not going to get into here now. I'm just saying it has evolved, and it probably will continue to evolve. And who knows what will happen. And like you said, Joe, we're not even at 8 yet. So why are we even talking about 9 yet? But there was some interesting things that were said. But speaking of 8, let's get into the Reddit stuff on the international trailer. Now, I got to, and then before we even came on air, well, who was it that the Nerdiest did their weekly thing, and they had something about the translation on the Star Wars website in Japan, I think it was, or something like that. I can't remember what it was, and they translated it, and of course, Jessica Shabbat, who said, take it with basically a grain of salt because it was with Google Translator. So how accurate it is, I don't know. But with these translations, Joa, should we? People are reading into it quite a bit. Should we read into them more than what? I don't think so, because I don't think it means as much as we think it means. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's the translation is probably an interpretation. I don't know that Lucasfilm is saying to. I mean, I guess if it's the Taiwanese, if it's specific to the Taiwanese version of the trailer, why wouldn't they say this is the way it needs to read? But I don't know. I mean, this goes back to where they were doing The Last Jedi, and they translated it to Los Ultimos Jedi, and it was and that meant that Jedi was plural, because Jedi can be either singular or plural, because there is no plural. You don't add an S to Jedi. You don't say Jedis.
I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to start doing that. I'm making a trend. No, go ahead.
Well, that would fit you perfectly, Mike. So that would play right into your character on the show. So
exactly, it works.
But no, yeah. So, but yeah. So I don't know that was ever confirmed. But then Ryan mentioned, it says here in our notes that Ryan did mention it. It was a singular reference to Luke, but I know Ryan has actually also expanded upon that. And he's said
it evolves.
That, hey, well, yeah, it evolves through the movie. Is it Luke through the whole movie? Well, maybe not. Maybe it becomes plural. Maybe it becomes singular in another form. I don't know. I mean, we don't know yet.
Maybe past tense. I don't know. You never know.
But these translations, definitely take it with a grain of salt. I don't take too much stock in it. Because this one was for the male use and the female use of a word, and there are different ways to interpret that or whatever. I don't pretend to understand other languages because I don't know any other languages. I barely know English, as you can tell here by listening to the podcast. So I don't take too much stock in this. It's just, I think that's just probably the way somebody interpreted it, because they saw that Ray popped up on the screen. Oh, well, he must have been talking to Ray. It's just like us, like they're just sitting there like guessing. And do you really think that Lucasfilm doesn't know that somebody would figure this out? So were they going to this? It could just be another misdirect completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they could be using this as another misdirect because they knew somebody was going to figure this out and do it. It's just another misdirect. He could be talking to anybody, and it doesn't, and they could use the translation and tell them, oh, this is the way you need to use this form of the word in your translation. And they could do that totally. And it could just be another misdirect, because you watch the trailer and it's total misdirect of everything. Because Mike, just going back to the Kylo Ren Leia scene where it looks like he's going to shoot her down and kill her. If you're right, and that's when they're leaving the car.
Yeah.
Well, then obviously he doesn't kill her at that point, because we see her on crate.
Correct.
So, if you're correct, and we know that's early in the movie, because he has the bandage on.
True.
And we know Leia is there at the end of the movie. So we know he doesn't kill her. So, oh, wow. It's like it just made,
at that moment, at least
he doesn't kill her at that point in the movie, because he's got the bandage on. And so we know it's earlier in the movie, because later in the movie, he doesn't have the bandage on. So, and then everything else with it is just, it's just misdirect all over the place. And
that's the MO.
If you think that you know what's misdirect in these trailers and what's not misdirect, you're wrong, because
we don't even know.
You don't know.
We don't even know. I'll say this.
Of course we don't know. Of course we don't know.
We like to think
if we don't know, nobody. Who knows? Ryan knows. That's it.
Yeah. Well, when I found, the When I Found You, I saw Raw Untamed Power. That I find interesting if it's tied to Ray and he found her and how things play out. Because I'm all about Rey being Luke's and stuff, and how that could all work out. Because we even said on last show, 204, where people have their issue with it is the fact that Luke is a deadbeat dad. If he just kind of abandoned her. And then, of course, we brought up the Buddha and how he left his wife and kid and all that other stuff. But that's another day. I just found it interesting that if that's the case, that Snoke kind of found her. And then what did he do? Drop her off? Or did he just say whatever? And maybe she got away? I don't know. That's interesting how that all might come to play if that's true. I'm curious what he tells her at the end of the movie there. Because I imagine he goes on to a monologue and kind of, just says a bunch of things. So who knows? But, all right, I guess.
Well, we know he's got. Well, I imagine maybe he says something to her at some point, seeing as how he's levitating her and torturing her.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, I mean, or maybe he just says, "Yeah, I'm just going to torture you," like
Vader did.
Get this over with.
Back in the day, he's paying homage to Vader back in the day. But all right, well, let's get into the little surprise that happened today, Joa. I wasn't expecting this at all, but I shouldn't be surprised because we're getting at that point where these little things are going to start popping up throughout the weeks now, Joe, I guess you could say. Like the TV spots will start coming out and we'll be like, oh, yeah, there'll be like 700 before we get to the movie. But USA Today, they gave us an interesting picture of Luke with the books there that we saw earlier in the year where he's got his hand on the books and stuff. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, obviously we all think Journal of the Wills. I mean, that's the first thing. But I think it's several different books. It's not just the Journal of the Wills, but continue. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's obviously more than just one book, but I don't know. Does a journal have to only be one book? I don't know if that's exclusive. I don't know. I was trying to count how many books I actually saw, and it's really kind of hard to count. I count at least 6.
I think there's 8
to 8.
Yeah, I think there's 8.
Yeah, I counted 8, but it's hard to tell because I don't know if that thing. I think there is because I think that thing. It almost looks like a wood plank on the end to the right.
Yeah.
But I think that's a book, and then there's like a little stone underneath. So I think there are actually 8.
Well, plus the one he's got
books here.
He's got one in his hands.
So I counted. Well, yeah, I counted that. I think there are 8. So anyway, I don't know. I mean. I don't know what it means, but it is kind of ominous that the light shines down right in that area. So it's like, here, you can have some reading light. And even if it's night, maybe the moonlight shines in.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Like, it's like, hey, extra reading time tonight. Great. Awesome. But yeah, I just, I think y'all said it in the Discord earlier that this is a promotional kind of shot. I don't know if this shot's really in the movie, although I guess it.
Well, the way he's looking, it looks like he's about to say something to Rey, like "I'll show you the true nature of the Force," that type of thing. I mean, I don't know, but
and then he shoots Force lightning.
Yeah, that would be pretty.
We're not going there.
Maybe he's talking.
This is the true nature of the dark side.
Well, maybe maybe he's maybe he does that. I don't know, but we'll see. But all right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
But I don't think. Well, obviously, I'm kidding. But I think I mean, I'd like to know what's in these books. I mean, if they want to. Now, these are the novels I want published, so they better get on that.
Well,
and I want them to look exactly like they do in the movie, like dirty and nasty and torn.
Do you want Luke's hand to come with it?
And I will pay premium $1 for them in that state.
Yeah. Well, Albert just said they're recipes, which is probably true. Pog recipes. But the interesting thing.
Well, you can only hope.
Yeah, I know. Well, the interesting thing is, that everyone seems to think that's the tree. And there's a thing in the behind the scenes thing that we saw where there's the cave that it seems like where Luke is at one point. But this tree looks like Bindu to me. I don't know why. I know it's not Bindu. I'm just saying it looks like that. I'm just curious I don't know if it's that tree that we see, though. This looks like it's something completely different. I don't know. Is this in his hut, maybe? Hard to say. I don't know. I'm very intrigued by where this spot really is, and maybe it's not.
It's in the tree.
It's in a tree, but I don't think it's the tree you think it is. That's all I'm saying. That tree that we saw Rey walking to.
How many trees are there here? Like I feel like that one tree is already really out of place.
Well, I don't even think
so. You want there to be more of them?
Is it even in the overhead shot that they showed? They might need to digitally put that in there, Ryan. You might want to.
I don't know. I don't know, but it's there because, well, obviously we saw it in the trailer, and I saw leaked pictures, and I can't say anymore.
All right. Well, we won't go there. All right. Well, let's get into the trailer that they released today. The little snippet there with Ryan Johnson talking about his experience, and I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was better than the one we got earlier in the year, but there wasn't too much revealed. I don't think, at least too much. I mean, obviously we saw. Although there's a thing I'm looking at right now, Chewie does have feathers in his mouth, and I'm just going to leave it at that. When you see Chewie and I think it's Rey. Oh no, it might be I don't think that's Rey in the background. But anyway, I guess the one revelation for me was that Albert did this in Discord where DJ was walking with Finn and Rose undercover, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know. What did you think of this whole, what Ryan had to say and what was going on in the trailer?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool little piece. I don't know how much we really got out of it. I mean, we did see, we saw Rey and Poe there, which I would guess would be on Crate. So that's just more confirmation that Rey goes to Crate. So we know she is on Ahch-To. I always want to say Ahch-To.
Well, at some point we're going to find out.
I gotta get in. Well, I think it's Ahch-To. I think that's what they said it's supposed. They changed it. It was that at one point, and then I think they've changed the pronunciation. Anyway, we'll find out. Whatever it's called. So we know she's there, and we know she is on Snoke's ship at some point.
Yep.
Because of the trailer, we know that, and we know she's on Crate. So we know Rey is at least visiting 3 different locations in this movie. Not a surprise at all. The big question is we still don't know that Luke leaves.
I don't think he does, but that's just me. But, you'll be upset.
Maybe not. Yeah. I mean, I have a new theory on that.
Oh, boy.
Dooku? I don't want to get
we're going Yoda Dooku moment? No,
I don't. I'll tell it to you after the show. I don't want to get into it on the show.
All right.
Because I think it ties into who Kylo's holding his hand out to. But yeah, I mean, so it was a pretty cool little snippet. I don't know. It wasn't quite on the epicness of the D23 behind the scenes trailer, but I felt like it was more the same, and they're really pumping up the promotion of, hey, we're gonna, this is something you haven't seen before.
Yeah, because Daisy says
different directions.
Yeah, Daisy says that and reiterates that whole.
Well, this is more. It's more of the same. It's more of the same what we've heard.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't too much. I guess, like I said, you got to see DJ walking with Finn and whatnot, and then I guess the end, I guess you could see, is really Snoke's throne room. I guess you could say. I mean, we see the shot with Daisy. Looks like she's getting ready to take a shot in the throne room there as well. She's sitting there talking to Ryan. And then the throne room itself is very interesting because it's all red in the background. And then there's that like gray piece or whatever where he sits on his throne and everything. But my question is that red stuff all really like CGI stuff, or is it something different? I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know. What did you think of Snoke's?
Well, I mean, didn't we see that background when Kylo picks the saber up in the trailer?
Well, yeah, we did.
It's that
true,
same
true.
background.
Yeah, so. That's true.
So I guess Snoke really likes red.
He likes red.
I don't know. I thought he liked gold.
Well, he wears gold, but he likes the red. That's his color, I guess. I don't know. Or well, as we've kind of thought, the guards kind of hide in that red, I guess, is what, because they blend in, I guess, and then they just jump out when it's needed or something. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to think. I don't know. I'm really looking.
Who does Snoke bring in to his throne room where his own guards need to be in stealth mode? That's my question.
Well, yeah, that's
based on that theory there. Like that's like why did they need to be stealth there? So I don't know. But I'm just kidding. But I don't know why it's so red. I guess I don't know. I mean, red is obvious. I mean, we know what red means. We know
it's for the blood.
The blood on Rey's arm in the toy pictures, but no, we know the real significance of red and everything else, and we know the significance of red in Star Wars. So I guess it's more of just playing, manipulating with colors, and it's just the same thing in The Force Awakens when Kylo is on the bridge with Han, and they show Kylo, and on one side the blue lights are reflecting, on one side the red lights are reflecting, and it's blue and red. And what are the two synonymous colors with Jedi? It's blue, kind of, because you're used to kind of blue lightsaber. I mean, green too, but blue lightsabers and red lightsabers, and it's those contrasting colors because he's conflicted with the light and he's conflicted with the dark. So, I mean, it's that same kind of deal. The red it's dark.
Let's just get a green lightsaber though, Ryan. Like, I don't know, maybe let Luke wield that thing.
Ignite the green.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying. Just come on.
That's what Yoda ignited the green in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, well, maybe we might get that moment. But I guess the only other thing you see is the cave, which is pretty big. I imagine this is where Rey goes in or Luke goes in. Actually, you can see a bit of the floor, that marker on the floor, but you don't get a good look at what it is there. So I'm curious what that'll be. And that's pretty much it. I mean, what Ryan had to say about things, I thought was great. I thought that was the better part, I guess, than you would say the one we got in April. I guess that's how I would look at it. I just think it was a better, I guess, narrative, I guess you could say. I don't know, but we'll leave it at that. But all right, well, let's get into our buddy Poe, unless you have anything else to say, Joe.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to all our Discord members who are listening live tonight. We're doing a test run tonight. If you guys are listening on the podcast, we have about, I don't know, 10, 11 people on our Discord who just happened to catch us. We did a late announcement. We're doing it live here in our Discord. So I just want to give those guys a shout out. So come join us in our Discord and join in on the chat and the events that we do and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. And I just wanted to throw that in there randomly before we get into our main topic, which is Poe, which I know not all of our listeners in the chat have got the chance to listen to 204 because it comes out. Actually, no, it came out tonight as we're recording about an hour and 38 minutes ago.
Correct.
So you can listen. So anybody listening live who hasn't listened can listen to that episode now. But there will be some tie-ins to that. So if you miss out what we're talking about live, we'll be talking about that here in this main topic. So let's get into Poe.
All right. Well, the main question is, all right, what do we know so far on Poe's character and what we hope to see in The Last Jedi? Now, I have to emphasize, I know some of the stuff that's in the comic. I don't know all of it. They kind of lost me with the Mothman guy showing up and stuff like that. But, we know some of it. We know, obviously, the tree that Luke got and he gave it to his mother and on Yavin and all that stuff. So there's that significance and stuff. And I don't know, but it's one thing to do it in the comic and give a little depth to the character. Okay, that's fine. And, hopefully we get a novel with Poe. I would love a novel with Poe. Get a little bit more with Poe himself. And maybe that's why we only got it in comic form, Joe. We didn't get it in a novel because they're still fleshing the character out. But obviously they're going to flesh his character out in The Last Jedi. So what do you hope to see in Poe? Initially, I know earlier in the year, I thought he was going to die. I thought he was going to be killed off because I didn't think there was much to go on with everything that's going on in the movie, in The Last Jedi. Where does he fit in? So I'll throw it to you. What do you think?
Well, I think he fits in, with the Resistance. And I think that they are going to need leaders. And obviously, and that goes on a subject that we don't like to talk about. Too much because
true.
It has to, so you can get my reference there. I think everybody kind of knows that subject we like to stay away from, because it's just, it's still a sore subject with us. And especially, me, I can't speak for you personally, Mike, but I know, Carrie's death is, it's a sore subject and, and so it's hard to, kind of, think about, but I think that they are going to need leaders, and I know Haldo comes in and she'll probably be somebody, but I think Poe is going to kind of be that remnant of Leia going into Episode 9 and that fierce force going into Episode 9 and kind of carrying out the adventure here in Episode 8, doing the things that Carrie Fisher probably couldn't couldn't do in episode 8. I mean, she obviously could still act and do multiple things, but I mean, she's not getting into an X-wing and flying around like Poe Dameron is, so he can kind of be that morale leader, but in the same time, he can be the action guy as well. So I feel like he can hold two of those spots at the same time.
Well, it's very interesting, though, from my perspective of the evolution of his character. And we've only seen, The Force Awakens and stuff in the comics and things like that, and the trailers and stuff like that. I get the sense that his role did evolve into more of a 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional character, where I thought initially, all right.
Well, he was supposed to, and he was supposed to die in The Force Awakens.
Exactly.
Originally.
Yeah. And
like JJ told Oscar, he said, well, yeah, you die. And he's like, oh. And I feel like that maybe he got talked out of that. I don't know by who, but maybe it was Oscar himself.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, let me live. So I thought this would be the movie that maybe he either gets pushed in the back a little bit more, or he might die and sacrifice himself a bit. But it seems like I'm kind of leaning.
I don't see that. I feel like this is the movie where he starts
stepping up,
rising up. And I feel like this is where he rises up and he takes a more prominent role. Like that's where I'm going.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you now. And I think even when they showed him in the trailer, and he was saying, we'll be the spark that whatever he says there in the trailer.
And it's a great line. And when they show his face and he's saying that, it's a great line. It's epic. And that's that. I mean, it's like, it reminds you of every reason why Oscar Isaacs is an awesome actor.
He really is.
And
actually.
why, and why, yeah. And oh man, the way he delivers it, it's all, and it kind of stinks for him in a way, because that was overshadowed by everything else in the trailer. Literally everything else in the trailer overshadows that line where he says, this is where the spark that will start the fire that will burn the First Order to the ground, or whatever, whatever that line is. It's pretty close to it, but
yeah, closer than what I got.
but literally everything else overshadows it, because you've got Finn and Phasma, with the, dueling there. And then you've got, the Luke and Rey stuff, and then the Snoke stuff, and then Rey floating, and Kylo and Carrie. And it just, everything overshadows what that one line that Poe has. But that one thing that Poe has, it is a great line all on its own. And that makes you think, that this could be that he can be a pretty special character in his own right, whether he's really a secondary character. I feel like that he's still I feel like he is I don't think that, I mean, you talk about the big three going back to the original trilogy, and in the prequel trilogy, I don't feel like you had that. It was really Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it was like the big two, I guess, because I don't even know if you even really had that. I don't even know if you'd have, but I mean, but I don't even think they even had that, because they weren't together like enough. Like, were they? Like, when were they ever together? Like, on Geonosis? But so, like, I think the big three consist of Mark Carey, and Harrison, and then it goes on from there. And I think that's all it is. And then now you've got where this movie is lying. You've got Luke and Kylo and Rey, and then you've got Finn, who I think is going to have a pretty big role, and then Poe. But I still feel like they're secondary characters in this movie, where Finn was a primary character in The Force Awakens. I feel like everything is taking a back seat to Luke and
Rey
Kylo
and
Rey in this movie. I feel like they're the big three for this movie.
Well, I mean,
and it doesn't always have to be a big three. It can be a big two or a big four or a big five. I mean, whatever it is, but I still feel like right now, like that, this is where the movie's focus is going to be. I mean, but you can't discount Carrie and what she's going to bring to this movie. I think that we've shied away from that, and we don't want to talk about that, because I mean, it hurts to talk about it. Honestly, at least for me. I mean,
I think for me,
I've shied away from it. So
for me, it's an uncomfortable situation with the fact that Carrie was a human being, number one. And to be concerned about
Well,
how
exactly.
it's going to,
absolutely.
how it's going to play out in a movie seems kind of shallow and not really that important at the end of the day. Like, she was a human being. She was a lot, I know we all see her as Leia, and, sometimes we don't separate the two. But for me, it's almost like, all right, well, Billy is still missing her mother, and, there was Mark as well and stuff. So it's kind of a raw thing still, even a year later. And I guess as a fan, I kind of want to respect that. That's why I don't really get into it that much. And I trust in, this is one of the few things I do trust with Disney, Lucasfilm, and whoever else, is that they will honor her rightfully, and I'm not worried about it too much. So I'll leave it at that when it comes to that. So let's get into Poe a little bit more here. Nicest guy in the galaxy or coolest guy in the galaxy? I like to say a little bit of both. I don't know. We side with he's probably the nicest guy because the way he was with Finn and everything. And again, I want to stress, I really want to see a Finn and Poe spinoff. I really would love to see something like that. I think they could do it. But what do you think, Joe? You think he's the nice guy, the coolest guy? I mean, he gave Finn his jacket. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I threw that in there because I think we said that before, that he was, like, he seems like he would be the nicest guy you could ever run across, and and then I started thinking about it, and I was like, is he the nicest guy? No, I think he's the coolest guy you could run across. Like, it just seems like, and when he and it goes back to the line we were just talking about in the trailer. It's like, this guy's cool. Like, he's really like cool. Like, that is an epic line, and it gets overshadowed, it gets overshadowed, unfortunately, but that's a really good line, and it's delivered really well. And you get to see his face as he's delivering it. It's not like the Snoke line where you don't know who he's talking to, and we don't know who Poe's talking to, but we get to see him say it. So it's, it has a little bit more meaning behind it to me. So yeah, I think Poe is, I think he's the coolest guy in the galaxy, at least the coolest guy in the Resistance.
Well, I think he's both. I think he is the nicest guy, but he's also the coolest guy, and now we'll get into the rivalry question here, sir, because speaking of rivalries, now last week we had Finn and Phasma, and we want to see a rivalry there, and we might have mentioned this for like a few seconds where we said, well, what about Poe and Kylo? Because now, I think we said this maybe when we first saw The Force Awakens in one of those review shows or something like that, or maybe even down the line where we said, well, why doesn't Poe and Kylo like know each other? You would think with him being around Leia all that time, they would kind of know each other, and maybe that's where even more of the rivalry comes from. You know what I mean? Like more of that. Like, you got my mother's attention.
Oh,
so,
and they would be about the same age.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. They're not too far off. Maybe there's that rivalry because you got my mother's affection and I didn't. I had to, for whatever reason, do what I had to do there. So,
yeah, I mean, is it the, I mean, is it, this is the son that Leia wanted?
Yeah.
More so than Kylo? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put that on Leia. I don't want to, go into that. We just had our Leia psychology episode, and we talked about her on the latest episode of Cantina After Dark, plugging that. But, I don't want to go quite that far in saying that, but
in Kylo's mind, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he sees it the wrong way, and maybe it evolves with Leia after, because Kylo, Ben turns, and maybe that's where she kind of just finds comfort with Poe. I don't know. There's a possibility there. I don't know, but it's interesting if this is the case, and Kylo sees Poe and he knows who he is, and then he says, "I had no idea." But this is the way it gets tricky. He says, "I had no idea we had the best Resistance pilot in custody," or whatever he says there. One, he's giving him respect that, okay, he is the best pilot in the Resistance. He didn't say the galaxy there because obviously he thinks he is. But so that kind of washes that away a little bit, don't you think?
I don't know. I mean, Kylo would have maybe Kylo should have recognized him to begin with. So why would he say it that way? But with Poe not know, I'm not saying maybe they knew each other before, but I'm saying, shouldn't Poe know who he is?
Well, maybe with the mask, he didn't realize.
I'm thinking Poe, maybe Kylo doesn't know who Poe is, but maybe Poe knows who Kylo is. And then when Kylo finds out, he says, "I had no idea we had the best pilot in the Resistance."
Yeah, true.
On board. but again, to your point, he doesn't say the best pilot in the galaxy. But Oscar Isaacs proclaimed at Celebration in Anaheim 2015 that Poe Dameron was the best damn pilot in the galaxy. But Kylo Ren refers to him as only the best pilot in the Resistance.
True.
So, again, and why would Kylo think that? Oh, maybe because his father is Han Solo.
His grandfather's Anakin.
And his grandfather is Anakin Skywalker. And you put those two things together and make a grandfather and a father, and then you have another baby. This guy should be the best pilot in the galaxy. And then we see him turning twists and flips in the air.
Well, try spinning. That's a good trick.
And he said, yeah, hey, yeah, that's a good trick.
Thank you, grandfather.
So exactly,
yeah, the meme.
Exactly where I was going. Yeah, he's like, the only thing he's missing, it's just like R2 needs to be, maybe he's got a R2 USB plugged in there to help him out. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, and the little cup holder he's got playing his music in that. But, well, not only that, Leia was a decent pilot herself. That would be, go ahead.
But that would be a good way, to me, that is a great way to build the rivalry, because it's like, I'm better at this. No, I'm better at this. And then you're both like, it's obvious that Leia and Poe are close. And there is, we're expecting a big scene between Leia and Poe in this movie. So it really just makes you wonder if there's the unseen rivalry between Poe and Kylo. And, it's just, we just wanted to repeat that theme from last episode. And
well, I'd said before, I would love to see them dogfight. Like, who's going to win that? You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that in the air. Like in that take place, like, because Poe can't take him on the ground, but maybe Poe has a chance in the air.
Exactly. Like, I would love to see those two go against each other. I don't think we'll get it, which will be sad. Maybe in episode 9 we'll get that. That'll be interesting if it happens, depending on what happens in 8 here. But I think the fighting for Leia's affections would have to be. I don't know if that's a thing because of what that line was, where it says, you would think he would. I could see maybe Poe knows him, or maybe Kylo doesn't acknowledge it because he's got the mask on and he wants to kind of stay mysterious. But I would think Poe, like you said, and I get the feeling that Poe knew him because the way he was joking with him at one point with the mask, like, I don't know, how's this work? That whole thing, which made us all laugh. And like, Kylo doesn't want any of it. Like maybe you get the feeling that they were even friends at one point. At that point, but then you get that line that he says to him, says, well, I didn't know we had the best pilot. Well, obviously you would know off the hand. As soon as you see him, you would know who he was, but apparently it doesn't look like he recognized them at that point. So the fighting for Leia's affections, it looks good, but I don't know if that's going to be the case, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, I guess it could just be something maybe even more implied in the past, but if they didn't know each other, which kind of seems that Kylo didn't recognize him at the beginning of The Force Awakens, so it would seem to throw that out a little bit, but it would be, it would just add to it though, wouldn't it? That would be pretty.
That would definitely be Star
cool
Wars,
yeah, and it's just looking at, and just look at Poe though. Let's just talk about Poe and Leia a little bit, because when she looks at Poe, couldn't it be that, because he's a great pilot and he's a leader, like he's got a little bit of Han in him.
Oh yeah,
because he's a great pilot. He's got a little bit of her in him because he's a leader, and that's maybe the son she always really wanted. I don't want to. I'm not trying to.
You are, but that's okay.
I'm not trying to here,
but you are.
But is it? But maybe, you can see it from. I can see it from her perspective. I don't know if anybody else can, but I definitely can see it. Like, where it's like, I don't want to raise Darth Vader. Like, I want a little mixture of me and a little mixture of Han. I don't want Darth Vader in this.
Yeah, but Leia is basically very much like Anakin. So we've always said that. So there's that. And what'd you think was going to happen? I don't know. But anyway, let's get into.
Shouldn't have had babies.
Well, let's get into this one thing that I mentioned at the top of the show with the Nerdiest, and that is they were hinting that Poe could turn Doc. Now, I jokingly said this to Joe before we went on air. I go, well, they're just saying everybody's turning dark these days. Like Luke, Ray, Leia, everybody's turning dark. You're turning dark. You're turning dark. You're turning dark. You know what I mean? Because that seems because nobody knows what the hell is going on. Like everyone just is like, all right, I don't know. And we're at the point in theory crafting and everything else in our nerves are shot where we're all just throwing everything against the wall. Everything that you could think of, even if it's cockamamie, we're throwing it against the wall and something is going to stick. And then there'll be that one fan that'll say, yes, I was right. And then all of us will say, well, yeah, you were. And we were all wrong. But, we're getting at that point now where they come up with these things. Now, you were saying in the Discord when I posted the video, I don't think he's going to go I don't think he's going dark. But what I think he's going to do is maybe go a little Saw Gerrera, which is what you were kind of hinting at in the chat here, is that he's going to do whatever it takes to take down the First Order because it's evil. And that's what he's going to do. Is that where you're thinking, Joa?
Well, I mean, he's not going to the First Order, so I don't know where this video. I didn't get a chance to check the video out before we started the podcast tonight. I saw that you posted it, but just seeing the title of it, my initial reaction was, well, there's no way he's going dark as far as going to the First Order. I could see him as this person who feels like the war needs to carry on. No matter what, we have to fight, we have to fight, we have to fight. And as we saw in Rogue One, the rebels weren't Boy Scouts. They weren't choir boys. So, I mean, they did some bad things. And I think that maybe in that way, Poe could go a little dark. But, I mean, it's hard to say he's going dark. I mean, you can't say he's going dark side. I mean, because I don't think he's a Force user, so I don't think you could go that direction with it. But you could say he's going to a darker place, but I still think that he fights for the Resistance, and I think he fights against the First Order. I don't think this is talking. I don't see how in any situation Poe would ever turn against the Republic or the Resistance.
No, I don't think so either. The only other thing I would say would happen is that he, Rey, Finn, and Kylo would team up and form a new something. I don't know if that would happen because I can't see Finn, making peace with that, and I can't even see Rey making peace with that. But you never know. We'll find out soon enough. I definitely don't think he's going to turn dark and he's going to join the First Order or anything like that. I think he's more of more like maybe like Cassian. You know what I mean, Joe? Like we love that about Cassian. He just kind of shot the guy in the back because that's what needed to be done to keep fighting and live another day and do what you need to do. I like that. I think that would be a great thing to go forward with him like that, and him struggling with it, not liking it would be another thing. I mean, if he did it and didn't have any remorse, like Cassian had remorse. He didn't like doing it, but he had to do what he had to do, and he carried that baggage with him, and it ate at him. If Poe just did that and just didn't care, well, that's a bit of a problem, and then we're gonna have a psychology episode about Poe, and it might not be a good picture. Then again, every time we do a psychology or a character dissection, it never really turns out well for the character at the end of the day. I mean, no one's perfect, I guess.
We just rip him to shreds,
especially Obi-Wan. Poor Obi.
Could you imagine if somebody did a psychology episode on us?
Well, I think Adam's going to do that at some point. I think he's going to have.
I don't think he has the. I think legally, I don't think
he can't. But maybe we can sign something. I mean, for you, it'd be a 7-part episode thing. Like it would be an anthology. With me, it might be 5 episodes. You might be 10. I don't know. But anyway, any more thoughts with Poe? I don't really have any more thoughts on Poe at this point until we get to the movie. But will be anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think we kind of went over it. I mean, again, we touched on Finn last week, Poe this week. It's 100 days of The Last Jedi, and that's what we're doing here on the podcast. And if Poe does turn to the dark side, he's welcome upon my legion.
Well, see, you just wanted to do a Snoke impression. You just had to get it in.
That wasn't Snoke.
Oh, who was that? Oh, that was the Emperor, right? Yeah. Sorry, it's been a while since.
Jesus Christ.
Well, it's been a while since you've done the Emperor. I mean, geez, you haven't done him.
I just got complimented in Discord for my Emperor, and so I wanted to give another taste.
Well, yeah,
use some original lines, and then you go and say it's Snoke. If I wanted to go Snoke, I would go fulfill your destiny.
Well, at least someone liked my Oprah impression in Discord. But anyway, Joe, why don't you tell them where to like?
I can't do an Oprah impression, but yeah, I'll tell you where you can like us. Facebook.com/The Cantina Cast, Twitter and Instagram @The Cantina Cast, and give us a review and all that good stuff on iTunes. If you haven't, come join us in Discord. All you got to do is check the show notes, get the link, or you can just Google search Cantina Cast Discord, and it will direct you right to the page, because I've tried it, I've done it, and it works. And so join us that way. And if you want to check out our Patreon page, you can search us, Cantina Cast on Patreon, and look at our perks there. We don't really do high dollar perks or anything like that. But if you want a couple perks, we've got a couple there for you. And I think that's it.
Yeah, that's about it. That'll be this week. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks to the friends in the Discord for joining us and listening to us live. Granted, they couldn't really talk to us, but it was fun having you guys around. And we'll see you next week. You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.